What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Guys, I still feel like I'm in banlist discussion mode, and I probably will be for the next 2 weeks or so. And, I was watching Mickey yesterday, and Mickey had a good video, very entertaining, about Patrick Cobain's ban list that he has on ARG's website. And a lot of the quote-unquote pro players are basically doing this because of the, ban list season and stuff like that. And, I'm not going to say that this list was a joke, but it was somewhere between bad and, awful. I'm not going to bash the guy or anything. I don't like these lists that have, 50 cards changing. I don't feel like you're trying to fix the problems of the last format. I feel like you're just trying to create a new game. You're trying to, activate Fiber Draw on the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, I've never been one to do that. Even if some of the changes that I have on my list always seem a little radical. They're always minimal. I try and keep it to a low number of cards. Also, I totally forgot about Bestiari and Mizuki. I actually meant to semi-limit those. Not going to go into that discussion now. Alright, so Hellbane has forbidden Card Destruction, Stratos, Heavy Storm, or Typhoon at 1, Hornet, Limiter Removal, Shockmaster, and Wind-Up Hunter. Alright, Wind-Up Hunter is completely irrelevant. The Wind-Up loot doesn't exist anymore. In fact, Burn and Exodia, Final Countdown, they all see so little play. Players don't even side deck Hunter anymore, so that's just completely irrelevant. Ignore that. Shockmaster, I actually kind of agree with Shockmaster. It's not because of Magician Shark. It's because of the ease that the card can be summoned. We all know about, Ultimate Offering and decks like Gadgets or Madoche or whatever. But, when this whole, this card's like Berserk Wolf or something like that, it's a Fire Fist support card comes out. That deck's going to be able to do it relatively easy. And I feel like if you play against certain decks, you just activate Shockmaster and win. You play against Prophecy, you call spells. You play against Chaos Dragons or Mermail Atlantean, you call effects, and it's just auto win. So I don't really think that Shockmaster is the most particularly healthy card for the game. Limiter Removal, I'll give you that. It's just an OTK card. Inzektor Hornet, I'm not cool with this. My reasoning is this. If you ban Hornet, you basically ban the deck. Inzektors, even if you don't like them, if you don't like the fact that they punish you for not running chainable cards, they have the right to existence. The only decks that I feel like don't have the right to existence are decks that are basically like FTKs where there is no player interaction. If you summon Royal Magician Library and then you just proceed to activate 30 cards so you can draw Exodia and I don't even get a chance to do anything or play, that's not player interaction. We're not even playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point. Inzektors have basically already been hit. They've been neutered. They had the 2 best cards in their deck hit. I don't see a reason that, that we should neuter the deck and make it basically unplayable just because you have a problem with the way that they win. Suck it up, dude. Heavy Storm would be awful if they banned it. Basically, it would create another set 5 format. If Mystical Space Typhoon was at 1, I'd be perfectly fine with that. That would curb the aggressiveness of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I already talked about that. Card Destruction needs to be hit, Mickey. I'm sorry. It's an auto win. It's Future Fusion for Dark World. When has a player ever fucking lost in Dark World when they activate Card Destruction? I beat one guy once. That's because I chained Macro and I was playing Dino Rabbit. Seriously. And Stratos. Alright, and I can talk about one of his limits also where he has Judgment Dragon limited because it kind of is the same ballpark argument. It's the argument of should a card be banned / limited just because it's broken? I say no. A card should not warrant banning or limitation just off the merits of it being broken. I think that a big factor should be the effect that the card is having on the meta. Stratos, while yes, the card is broken, it has the whole, MST back row blow up effect. It has the fact that it can search itself. Clearly, Konami learned from that. That's why shit like Gear Frame and all these other searching cards can never search themselves. The fact that the card pool for the card is almost 50 cards. I don't care how many are good. It searches too many cards. Stratos is a broken card. But Stratos also has basically minimal to no effect on the current meta, and it doesn't look like it's going to increase. So that's why I have to say that Stratos doesn't need to be banned right now. It's not a card where it's going to really do anything in the meta. It's not going to have an effect on the meta. If a card's not affecting the meta, I can't justify banning it. I can't justify taking it from 3 to 2 because it doesn't really make a difference. All it does is make the deck worse. His limits: Atlantean Dragoons, Called a Haunted, Drag Down to the Grave, Evigishki, Mind Augus, I don't know what that is, I'm sorry. Fire Formation Tenki, Geargia Armor, Gozen Match, Grapha, King Dragon Atum, Hope for Escape, Judgment Dragon, Karakuri Anatomy, Kizan, Magician of Faith, Hyperion, MST, 1 Day of Peace, Rekindling, Rivalry of Warlords, 6 Sam United, Solemn Warning, Spellbook of Secrets, and Wind Up Factory. I agree with Wind Up Factory. It shouldn't be able to trigger on both turns. Spellbook of Secrets, I'll give you that too. Cards shouldn't be able to tutor like an entire deck. I mean, and that's basically what Spellbook of Secrets does. I don't agree with Solemn Warning, and I say this because with Solemn Warning at 1, it basically feels like the be-all, end-all of stopping summons, and I feel like the player who draws Solemn Warning first has a huge advantage. I also feel like every deck, considering they won't have to worry about managing life points, because like I only have to play 1 now. I don't have to worry about, oh, I took too many attacks and I still have a dead Solemn Warning I'm going to draw or something like that. Like every deck, there's no reason not to run Solemn Warning now. 6 Sam United and Karakuri Anatomy seem basically laughable to me. I mean, it looks like you basically said any card that is a potential draw 2 +1 in any archetype for any reason, I'm just going to limit arbitrarily. Like, okay, like what? I mean, I understand that, but then you fucking left Pot of Avarice, the be-all, end-all for draw unskillfully. Like, you left that shit legal, and that's a card that rewards bad play. I mean, like, that's a complete, like, I don't understand that shit. I've already talked about Judgment Dragon. Grapha and Hyperion. I actually get Grapha because you can search Grapha and he can basically revive himself an unlimited amount of times. Hyperion's just a good card. I mean, let's be real about agents. They have what, like 2 good agents, fucking Earth and Venus, and once you use Venus's effect, she becomes basically just another card. I mean, the same thing with Earth. Like, these are cards where you can only effectively use their effects like once. Like, I don't understand why you're going after the deck. It's like, are we not allowed to have good boss monsters? Because if that's the case, let's just all play fucking Crystal Beasts. You know what I mean? Like, let's just play decks without good boss monsters like Volcanics and shit like that. Let's see. Gozen Match and Rivalry of Warlords. I don't get those. I understand the whole, well, if your opponent can do whatever they want and you can't do whatever you want, then that's unhealthy for the game. The problem is, this isn't Royal Oppression. This isn't Imperial Order where you're basically stunned. I mean, you can still summon 3 wind-up sharks and beat me down with, you know, with both of those cards being active, Rivalry and Gozen Match. But it's not those cards' fault that your deck is constructed of monsters of all different types and, you know, attributes and stuff like. And it's not your deck's fault either. But you can still go balls walls. You just can't go balls walls the way you want to. You can still set as many cards as you want. You can still summon as many cards as you want. You just have to make sure your summons meet the conditions of those cards, and they're not strict enough to where I feel like they're a problem. I mean, I just don't agree with that. Call of the Haunted. You limited Call of the Haunted and left Monster Reborn legal. Monster Reborn is a card that involves absolutely no skill, and the reason I say that is because it doesn't even depend on your graveyard. It can depend on your opponent's graveyard, which means you can use your own opponent's resources, cards that they have incurred, to the graveyard and whoop their ass with them. Like, what skill is involved with that? At least with Call of the Haunted, you have to use your own resources. Like, that makes no sense why you still have Monster Reborn legal and you limited Call of the Haunted. Like, I secretly think that you did this just so that you could condone Christia being at 3, but whatever, on your list. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for your limits. Actually, you know what? Fire Formation Tenki, you limited that. I actually kind of agree with this card. Like, alright, Tenki is searchable, and then you can activate Tenki and search another card, and then you can launch Tenki and blow up a card. Like, that's a little too nuts. You know, I feel like this card actually should be limited. I feel like at 2, I mean, it really wouldn't make that big of a difference. But Tenki is just a little, I mean, the fact that you can throw the fucking Tenki at your opponent and blow up one of their cards is just, that's just a little silly, man. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just a Rota, but I mean, the fact that it's like emergency call, it's like, or proving ground, you could just send those cards to the graveyard and then blow something up on your opponent's field. It's a little crazy. Your semi-limits, Deep Sea Diva, Reckless Greed, Wind Up Shark. Shark should be limited because it does too much. Unlike Magician, Shark can actually do stuff by itself, like Trigger Factory. Shark can go anywhere from level 3 to level 5. It's also a beater. The reason why I don't think Magician should be touched is simple. Magician can't do anything by herself at all. She's completely dependent on all the other wind-up cards. Wind up, you know, Rat, Rabbit, Shark. They can all not only attack, but, well, not Rat, but they can all do stuff by themselves. Magician can never do anything by herself. She can't even trigger the fucking factory by herself. She can't do anything by herself. She's useless by herself. Wind Up Shark, can actually do some things by himself. And the card is just the way that they made the summoning conditions and stuff. This shit just does too much. Deep Sea Diva being semi-limited is fucking pointless because no one ever runs more than like 2. I mean, Atlantean Mermail players for the most part just run 2 because they don't want to draw multiples of it like ever. And then Reckless Greed, I guess I'm kind of okay with that. Your Unrestricted, Christia, Mind Crush, Scapegoat, Transmigration Prophecy. I'm cool with Mind Crush because I feel like it's an ultra skillful card. I mean, unless you're like playing Dark World and you're like looking at your opponent's hand. But for the most part, you kind of curb Dark World, so I get that. Transmigration Prophecy, completely fine with that. Christia, I feel like the only reason, again, that you unrestricted Christia is because you limited Call It a Haunted, which was stupid to begin with. So I don't really know how I feel about that. And then Scapegoat. And, of course, you're one of those GOAT format nuts that can't let Yu-Gi-Oh! Go. You know, you can't let that shit evolve. You basically have to live in the bask in the glory of GOAT format. All right, here's my problem with Scapegoat. It doesn't slow the game down. It doesn't make formats less aggressive. And the reason that is because it doesn't have any practical uses in today's decks. Like, outside of enemy controller and creature swap, what the fuck are you doing with Scapegoats? Like, you can't exceed with them. Synchro summoning is at an all-time low. It's practically on life support. So what practical uses can you do with Scapegoat tokens? I know what you can do with them. You can fucking stall and burn decks. Like, the most practical use for 3 Scapegoats are in burn and stall decks. The only other deck I could actually see playing 3 copies of Scapegoat is like Mystic Piper, but then it becomes a risk-reward thing. It's like, do we really want to risk this card making burn more competitive and better, considering they lost them one day of pieces, they lost a Reckless Greed, so obviously they're gonna throw on more cards because they need to keep their consistency up or whatever. Are we going to risk that just for the reward of making Mystic Piper a deck that nobody plays at all just a little bit better? I really don't think so. So everybody thinks like this is going to curb aggression in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not, because nobody's going to play Scapegoat. All they're going to do is just play how they keep playing, and the only deck that's going to be benefited by this is fucking burn and stall. So, you know, if you want to curb aggression, then fucking limit MST. That way players can't just MST or one back row and go balls walls. You know, unlimit torrential tribute. People will be more hesitant to throw a bunch of monsters on the field, like, you know, if they know that I might be walking into a torrential and my Forbidden Lance is only going to protect one monster. You know, unlimit Merit Force. That way people won't put so many monsters on the board unless they know they have protection and stuff like that. So overall, I feel like you were trying to do too many things with the ban list. Some of your limits are like really laughable. Your Geargia Armor limit is actually pretty good. Geargia Armor is a card that, I mean, it can just provide too much advantage. It's 1900. Ass is a little too big. Even when you run it over, they still search anyway. But some of your limits where it's just like, dude, what were you trying to do? You know, you say that you want to make the game so that you can't just drop your entire hand being aggressive like Kizan, but then it's like, all right, well, if you want to go by that precedent, how come you didn't limit Bora? How come you didn't limit Geargia Accelerator? Like, Geargia Accelerator, the whole purpose of that card is to fucking go aggro. You know what I mean? And like exceed and try and put as much damage as you can on the board. Like, that card doesn't really serve any other purpose. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you think of his list, and I'll talk to you later.